Delicious Joint Channel, become a member here on YouTube, over at SubScribe now, over at Odyssey. Thanks to members over there. So, if you don't like Disney Marvel propaganda, you're like biased or like whatever. Her Kaplan's article is how responses to the Marvel Cinematic Universe reveal unexamined critical biases, and she has a lot. She focuses a lot on unconscious biases. But they're not unconscious because I'm talking about them right now. All this stuff is crap. So she uses a lot of hot words: bias, prejudiced, and she frames them as a negative, and they're not. They're just neutral terms. The lack of self-awareness from Kaplan, or really any of the women at the Mary Sue, and I think there's two honorary guys, but I think one dresses up like a girl or something. The perception is that from the Mary Sue is that they hate people of European descent, and they definitely hate Christians. And if that perception is wrong, I'm sure they'll simply clear it up, because everything in the Mary Sue is coming across as anti-white and anti-Christian. I mean, as well as anti-nation, as well as anti-natal, anti-family, anti-everything. They're globalist communists. So the article's précis is Kaplan doing damage control for the failing girl power, diverse movies with the BLT themes that we view as globalist propaganda, and Kaplan and Disney know it's propaganda. First of all, diversity, feminism, all those woke anti-white elements are cancer, and we don't take anything seriously from Kaplan and the Mary Sue until we see evidence that they can be pro-white or at least unbiased in their presentation of treating fair-skinned people of the light equally, which is funny. In her article about bias, she's clearly biased against the people of the light. A damage control article for the Marvels, Madam Web, and all the rest of the girl power cancer, which it all absolutely is. And the thing is, like, you look at them and go, so did you see Madam Web or the Marvels? You talk to all these like Twitter girls, and like, no. Oh, it's an action adventure movie for chicks? And chicks go, yeah, we don't want action adventure. We want something centered around, usually romance is going to be the strongest. So I feel like they don't understand that we're not globalists or feminists or value diversity. I just said it. It's not subconscious. They think that if they keep whining at us from Engels and Moses Mordecai Levy and whoever, that we're going to convert. They have complete control of the mainstream narrative, and the base Chad nationalism movement is still growing. We grew up under this left-wing system. We have rejected it. We understand it, or at least we're exposed to it. We are the free thinkers who are over target. The left wing is on the side of the banks, CNN, Disney, and every mainstream corporate prostitute out there. We're actually for the people, where these people are for corporate interests, and yet they think that they're the rebels. So her point with Marvel is it's not failing, but catering to a larger audience, which doesn't make sense because they're not buying tickets to these feminist movies. Madam Web and the Marvels, as well as the Terminator Girl Power Edition, Charlie's Angels, Ghostbusters 2016, and a bunch of other stuff, all lost money. They're clearly bombing. They have marginalized the male Euro audience, and they've stopped supporting these silly feminist diverse movies. We don't value feminist diversity. That's not subconscious. I feel like they really don't understand that we are tribal and patriarchal. It's okay to disagree. Not all things have to be a hive mind for all people. So she makes some really dumb points. She thinks the male audience has a subconscious discrimination against girl power movies. No, it's a conscious learned behavior. I'm discussing it right now. Those are not our values because we're in disagreement. Neither side is exactly right or wrong. Kaplan likes girl power diversity. Here I am consciously saying it's cringe. And then she says something like it's harmful, but she never explains why she feels that way. We have a negative attitude, going off about Trump. God, just let it go, man. We have a negative attitude about these themes in these movies based on learned behavior, previous experience. We're aware we hold these biases. Bias isn't a negative word. It's not subconscious at all. The movies are stupid. Many left-wing values are not our values. We have these perceptions, attitudes, and stereotypes from observation and experience, so now movies can simply be summed up as, oh, is it going to be woke or not? We're tribal and we have in-group preferences. The left is global and has mad at their dad pick last for sports out-group preferences. They are the soy-faced, open-mouth, Wojak pussy. We are Chads crapping on globalists. The left is now defending the globalist corporate empires of evil, and they think that they're raging against the machine. It's bizarre to see how they've turned around in like 24 years. Kaplan thinks that the male reviewers and not the crappy movies are the problem. Except people are influenced more by their peer social groups and the previews on YouTube and Twitter, not by a professional reviewer, because they're all Wojak, soy-faced, fat pussies. They're all left-wing, so the opposite of their views is going to be closer to accurate. But now the pattern of behavior, i.e. the crappy movies, is firmly established. If diversity or woman, then preachy, misandrist, anti-white propaganda. We don't even have to investigate further, and really people are starting to realize that caring about Hollywood, that's cringe Coomer behavior. Then Kaplan makes some points about tribal bias, that people want to see themselves and their tribe on screen and well represented. Yes, this isn't subconscious. I'm saying it right now. We are in-group biased, exactly like Kaplan is. Every group is except for white liberals, because they are, as I said, soy-faced Wojak pussies. You want to talk about Kaplan's anti-white bias. She's so petty, she capitalizes black and not white. If I see that, I don't need to take anything you say seriously. When we see characters, and the thing is, like, even to pretend to be unbiased, she can't bring herself to do it. Either capitalize both or capitalize neither. She just can't take that step. When we see characters that are so obviously portrayed as propaganda, we don't enjoy the movie. This is the trope of the person of the light as the antagonist and the non-Euro as protagonist. This is contrary to our experience because we know how awesome we are. Like I said, we're the Chads with in-group preferences. We're open about it. Why wouldn't we be? All other groups are open about their in-group preferences. When we see these repeated Hollywood patterns of anti-white propaganda, we learn to develop shortcuts. It's all just woke. Every movie, streaming show, commercial, comic book has blonde hair bad, black hair good. This is ridiculous and clearly shows the anti-white bias of the mainstream globalist media. Then she's whining about race swaps, using Captain America as an example. Yes, they race swapped him. Why do we want to see a portrayal of literal propaganda? She makes another point about the health of movies is related to the health of journalism, and they're both dying because they're Bolshevik propaganda. The thing is, they don't even pretend to be unbiased. 100% of the MSM is globalist cancer. When you have Dr. Duke or Jared Taylor or Andrew Anglin or all those other kind of, further right people writing articles for the mainstream and invited on interviews and to, have host a MSNBC show or whatnot, then I know you're impartial. And of course, the idea is inconceivable to them, which is one of the reasons movies and journalism are failing, and they very clearly are. That Rubin guy who almost 1 year ago today, I think it was on Valentine's, told people that they should start skipping breakfast due to Biden's inflation, just got fired from the New York Times. You can search it. She says in here that diversity of voice, and people told him, guy, maybe you should learn to code and perhaps skip breakfast. She says diversity of voices is needed most at this time, and I agree, diversity of thought is needed, except that the Mary Sue doesn't have any at all. It's literally a globalist echo chamber. Are they planning on having Steve Saylor or James Kirkpatrick at VDare write articles? They keep talking about diversity, but when you actually ask for diversity of thought, they immediately ad hominem, strawman, deflect, and move to censor and deplatform. They mean their ideas should be viewed, not any ideas outside the echo chamber. But don't you want to hear from everyone? I mean, otherwise, like, censorship just means that someone else is making the decisions for you, the Nina Jankowiczes of the world. We don't want that. We want to make our own decisions because we're adults. They look at you like, what? The idea just blows their mind to have I don't know, some. I was going to name it like some form of journalism to have actual right-wing views, or the Mary Sue itself. There's about 15 writers who submit articles from the Mary Sue on a regular basis. None of them you could say are on the right at all. And they go, so you just said diversity of thought. Why don't you have some right-wing writers write for the Mary Sue? Because we're just not going to do that. So then, I mean, why do you say things that are not true? And beginning of the article, she goes, their moves aren't failing. They're opening up the audience. But they're objectively failing. Objectiveness is that they've lost $200 million for the Marvels. You say that they're opening up the audience is a bizarre statement, because the audience, you're opening up, I guess, in potential, but they're not actual realization of the audience, because they're not actually going to the theater. Nobody is. That's why I lost $200 million. So I'm not sure what you're saying there. So what, I guess the point is, they're pandering to a new audience. They're seeking a new audience, but they're not taking the old audience behind. In fact, they're alienating their old audience. That's why it lost $200 million. I mean, like, you're an adult. How do you say things that are so objectively incorrect? Anyway, if you don't like Disney, guys, you're like istophobic. Challenge accepted. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on SubScribeStar and Odyssey.